Okay, so we're live. I'm just going to press on Instagram to go live there. Just checking. All these things you've got to check. Make sure we're full live. 2 seconds. Yep, I think we're live there. We're live. All right. Right, awesome. Sorry. So hello and welcome to day 18 of the Sair Zee Experience. It's 100 lives in 100 days, and I am going live for my podcast every single day for 100 days, and this is day 18, and it's a very exciting interview today. We have Nicci Ashby, and Nicci is a success coach. She's an award-winning entrepreneur with a wealth of knowledge in helping entrepreneurs craft their media kits for success. Whether you're aiming to get more media coverage, send out your media kits or your EPKs like to radio stations, podcasts, magazines. Nicci's here to share all the do's and don'ts and discuss whether AI should play a role in your media kit, because that's a big controversial topic at the moment. So Nicci's going to be helping us with that. And she's been empowering entrepreneurs since 2015. So today I'm going to pick her brain. I'm going to pick your brain, Nicci, on all things media kit related. So if you are a musician, artist, creative entrepreneur, she helps out business people. So if you're serious about getting noticed, you don't want to miss this one. So hello, Nicci, and welcome.
Thank you, Sair. Thank you. Very excited to be here for your 100 days.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. So tell us a little bit about, I know I've just introduced you, but tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into it, and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So I have a background in helping people, so social welfare and teaching, and then I got into business for myself in 2010. My husband is a fly-in, fly-out worker, and we have 3 kids, and they were really young, so I think 3 kids, 4.5 and under. And I decided to get into the world of business, and I started a company called FIFO Families, which was a support network that ran right around the country and into New Zealand, and was about connecting people and helping each other out. And it went on to have a huge impact on the industry, so mining, oil and gas, but also the community, and it left a really strong legacy. And through that process, that's when I fell into my media journey, because I was one of the first movers in that space. And what that meant was that whenever the FIFO was being spoken about in the news, quite often they would come to me for comment on what is it like from a partner's perspective, and a parent and a family. And so I became the go-to for FIFO in that space, and did hundreds of interviews over a 5-year period. If you think ABC News, The Project, 7:30, Today Tonight, The Australian, The Age, Channel 7, 9, News 10, you name it. So what I learnt there was how powerful the media is when you've got a business or you've got a message that you want amplified and you want to reach people. So then I reverse engineered my journey and started a new company called High Profit Media. And that was really focused on teaching small business owners how the media works, how we can get interviews in the media for free to build our brand, our profile, our credibility, and also our profits.
That's awesome, because a lot of people don't understand how the media works and what they're looking for. It's like a big thing that we were talking about earlier, that we're not equipped with that knowledge.
No.
So,
And they don't really like to teach you about
it.
Go. The media don't really want to teach you the inside secrets either.
Yes. What would be the reason why they don't want to teach you the inside secrets?
Well, you have to think that they're a business as well. So they're all about retaining their audience, if it's viewers on TV, listeners in radio, and readers, for print, or people that tune in for podcasts and radio. And it's they like to have their content delivered to them in a very specific way. And once you know, it's
Yeah.
actually really easy. It's really easy once you know how they like it. But it's not common to know how to pitch to them unless you have a degree in journalism or PR, or you've been
Yes.
really active with them. So it's almost like a bit of a secret how to communicate with them.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. So if we don't have a degree in it, it's very difficult to learn exactly what they want.
Yeah, it's easy to learn, but it's about understanding I guess, navigating the media landscape and how your story fits into the story that they're trying to present to their audience. So it's about really
Mm.
knowing who it is. So if you're a muso, for example, knowing who your ideal audience is and where do they live and what media are they consuming. So, are they, for example, maybe they might be watching ABC Breakfast in the morning as opposed to Sunrise, or what's the other one? I can't think of the other one, on Channel 10, the Today Show. So which one would you be better placed being? So as business owners and creatives, we need to understand who our ideal audience is, where they're living, what they're listening to. For example, are they listening to Triple J or Double J? Or are they listening to ITR FM? Once you can understand that more intimate detail about your audience, it makes it really easier. It makes it really easy to go, right, I should actually be identifying this particular media outlet because that's where I'm going to get the most exposure in front of my audience. So it's little tips and tricks around that as well that can really help
Yes.
you, reach more of your ideal customers or your audience.
So what would you say that the media love the most? What's something that people can do that they really love to see, and what's something that they really hate seeing?
Yeah, okay, great questions. So what they love is they love media releases that are well written in the way that they want to respond. So if you think about a newspaper, the average newspaper in Australia is written. So let's just take the Herald Sun, for example. That's written to the average intelligence of an 8-year-old. So when we're pitching to, say, the editor of the Herald Sun, we want to write something that can be skimmed really easily in about 20 seconds. So everything's stepped out. And what they love is a strong human element. What does that mean? So if you think about part of the way that we're hardwired to learn as humans, we've evolved through storytelling and passing down stories, and we relate to other people's emotions as well. So if you're a muser or a creative and you've got a really important message that relates to other humans, that's really great. If you're doing something in a community level, that's really great. They love that stuff. And if you start looking at some of the news and content, so if you're looking at, say, The Project or some of the breakfast shows or even the news and they're interviewing people, if they're doing live crossovers, quite often there'll be a really strong community connection or a strong human element. So it's thinking about, what am I doing in my business, or what am I doing with my creative outlet that affects other people, and how
Mm.
is that going to be of interest to a wide audience, if that makes sense. So if I just think about, if I'm living in Ballarat, so I live in Ballarat, the Ballarat Art Gallery has been doing some amazing events lately, and they've got a huge a huge piece coming up called Medieval to Metal, and it's about the guitar and the evolution of the guitar. And they've got guitars coming from the US, and they've got all these amazing photographs of like Jimi Hendrix and Neil Diamond and Keith Richards on the guitars. And so this is going to be a huge exhibition, and they're already saying they're getting lots of men that are inquiring about that,
Yes.
which is not the target audience. But if you think about music, and if you're thinking about guitars and all the different guitars from classical to electric and whatever's in between, that's a really broad audience. So if you could tap into your messaging around that, as an example, that can kind of highlight having one topic, but it can relate to many people. And then if you're interested in guitars and you see that that's happening in Ballarat, then you're like, oh, I've got to go. I've got to go and check this out.
Yeah, and make the contacts as well
Yeah,
within that
yeah,
industry.
yeah. And to answer your other question, Sarah, what they don't like, what the media really don't like, and I've heard producers and editors and key journalists say this at different events I've been to over the years, do not over promote your business or what you're doing. So if you just send us a media release and it's about, look at me, look how good my business is so fantastic, they will not run with the story. So you always have to think, what is it about my business that is interesting, inspiring? How does it relate to the wider community? Or does it connect to a bigger story? For example, if you're a leadership coach and we're talking about the American elections and Trump and Harris and Biden, you could potentially go in there and talk about leadership coaching as an example. So how does your story fit in with bigger stories that are happening at a national, international, or even a local level? So it's always kind of observing what's happening and thinking, right, how does this fit in? Or if you've got something to promote, how does this fit into the media? Why would they want to talk to me about this? Because often as business owners and creatives as well, we know that what we do is really good, right? And we're really passionate about what we do, but we can't pitch to the media saying, look at how good we are, because that doesn't work. They do not like that.
And I suppose you think that that's what you should do. You should really promote it so they go, oh, I have to do this,
Yeah.
But it can be a big no-no, a big turn off.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I've seen so many business owners do that they'll just go too commercial. And I've even, sometimes it can be a really fine line that you're trying to get a business some publicity, but you're treading a really fine line between promoting them. And I do have a good friend that works, I won't say where she works, but anyway, she's been across a few different media outlets, and I've sent her media releases before. And if I'm not sure, I'll test it to her, and she'll say, "No, this is you've gone too far on the promoting the business." Yeah, which is good because you push it, but she'll come back and actually say to me,
"It's just like that line. You want to get to the line, but not go overboard with it."
Yeah, exactly.
So just as we're on the topic of media releases, what's the difference between a media release and an EPK?
Yeah. So EPK is more that part about you. So it might be where you've got, your website, your links. You might have samples to music and tracks or art. A media release is very much about, it's a one-page document and it tells a story. And you want to have quotes in that story because quotes help, I guess, further illustrate that story and bring it together. And it has to have a really good headline. It has to have a strong headline, because if you put yourself in the position of an editor or a journalist, let's say you're the producer of Sunrise, that morning show that's on every morning from, I think, 6:30 till 9. They started a ridiculous hour. So I did hear this morning that one of the hosts for ABC Breakfast, they get in at 3:45 in the morning to the studio. So the producer's in there even before that because they've got to identify the stories that are coming through for that morning session. So typically they might have 100. The producer might have 100 emails already in their inbox every morning. And the only way that they can decipher if there's an email that they're going to open is through the subject line that you choose to put on that email. That's your only opportunity of cut through. So that's the most important thing to work on, is to have a really clear subject line that can be captivating and have a strong hook, so that the reader at the end goes, what is this? I need to open it. And that can be the trickiest thing, because if that doesn't work, they're not even going to open your email.
Yeah. So what is the description of a good hook? How do you know whether you're onto something or not?
Yeah, that is a great question. And that can be it's probably a bit tricky for me to unpack here.
I suppose it depends on what business and that kind of thing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So there's an example that I use that the producer for the Today Show used a few years ago, and he was talking about this exact thing. And he said, I get 100 emails every morning, and I've got to go through quickly and see what jumps out at me. And he said there was this one email one day, and the subject line was vein glue, and that was it, just vein glue. And he just thought, what the hell? What the hell is vein glue? So he opened the email, and it was a new treatment
Yep.
for varicose veins, and they got on the show to talk about that. But that's a really good
Yep.
example because it's creating space and a void, and it's captivating. So there's not too much information. And I'm pretty sure that a headline or your subject line for a media release shouldn't be any more than 90 characters. So it's short and it's sharp. And sometimes
Yep.
you'll leave words out and just go straight to the point, but it's got to be captivating and have a hook so that someone reads it
Yes.
and go, oh, okay, I need to read more.
Yes. Could create that intrigue. Because like
Yeah.
vein glue, you're like, I need to know what that is no matter what.
What the hell is vein glue? Yeah. So it's interesting, and that's by far the hardest thing to do with writing a media release is getting that headline with the hook. And journalists or anybody who's writing a media release will tell you that's what they spend the most amount of time on.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
back to your question. So if you've got your EPK, that's more about you. And then if you have your media release, that's about you identifying a bigger story or how you relate to a bigger story, or you might be, promoting a community event or something that's coming up. But it's very precise and not so much about you, for example, whereas that EPK is very much about you and what you do.
Okay. And the EPK is one page. And what about a media kit?
Media release, I generally say you want about 500 words. So you'll have your headline, the actual text, and then you'll have your contact details, and then generally a really short about page, or it might be a bio, for example, if you're a creative. You don't want that to be over 1.5 pages.
Yeah.
That is
Okay.
max. That is
That's
max.
enough. And do
Yeah,
these
yeah.
include photos and that kind of thing? Do you include photos in it or is it just text?
You don't have to. So I've been interviewed hundreds of times, and got to think. I don't think I generally sent through any imagery. So if
Hmm.
I have heard some journos say, if you're pitching to TV, because TV is a really strong visual medium, if you've got a
Yes.
really amazing visual that you want to portray, say you're dressed up for Mardi Gras, for example, and you've got some amazing colorful outfit, you might put that in as an attachment in the
Yep.
media release, because it immediately portrays a really strong message and image. And an
Yes.
example that
Really
I heard
true.
once, yeah, when I was living in Perth, was he was a news journalist, a sports journalist, and he said, with TV, if you've got a really strong visual, send us that so we can see that. He said, for example, if you had monster trucks on the foreshore in Perth on the river, that's a really strong visual. So send us that. But obviously you wouldn't need to send a visual to radio because that's audio, not a visual
Yeah.
aspect. And if the media do want to interview and they do want to have a photo of you, say in a magazine or a newspaper, they will send their own photographer out generally.
Right. Okay. Yep. And how do you usually pay for these kind of like releases? Like, is there like, no, so it's free.
Yeah, I really advocate on not paying for media,
Yep.
definitely, because you can do things that are called advertorials. So you might pay to be in a newspaper, for example, or lifestyle magazines. They often use advertorials. But you might be paying $1,800 to $2,000 for that.
Mm,
Whereas
yep.
if you know how the media work and you understand that the media needs stories every single day, then there's always opportunities for us. always opportunities for us to get ourselves into the media for free. So
Yeah.
I've been told that I've probably done close to $500,000 worth of media interviews over a 5-year period. I didn't pay for any of that. But I quickly
Yep.
learned how powerful it was and how one interview led to another interview, led to another interview. And so any, people that I work with, I don't advocate on paying for ads, but then it also, it also depends where you are, what your business is, and some radio advertising at the moment can be quite cheap. So if you're thinking that you've got a gym, for example, and you're doing primetime ads to mums and dads in car and school pickup, that can work well, that repeat messaging. But
Yes.
generally, I say don't pay. You don't need
Yep.
to. You don't need to pay when you can get it for free.
No. And you were saying you have like a very high success rate by the way you write everything up for your clients. What is
Yeah.
like your number one, what do you think is your number one thing that makes the way you write the most successful?
I think truly understanding what the media are looking for and knowing that, and just writing something that's not too complicated, that is really easy for the reader to pick up and skim that and go, okay, this is a good story. We need to interview, this business or this person. To me, that's really what it's about, is breaking it down into really basic pieces, not having anything that's too complicated, that portrays a really strong message as to why you need to be on this TV show or this radio station or this newspaper or this podcast.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because I think we overcomplicate things. Sometimes we think that you need all this information, but keeping it simple a lot of the time is the best way, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'll give you a really quick example. In Buninyong, which is just out of Ballarat, there's a beautiful restaurant there called the Shared Table, and there's only really the restaurant and the pub in this little township. And the pub had to close down for 6 months for renovations. So my friend said to me, "Do you think this is a story that we want to help the community out? So we're going to put on some pub meals, some palmies and fish and chips, which they wouldn't normally do, so that people who would generally go to the pub can come here for the 6 months." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I kind of walked her through what to do. She used AI. I told her who to send it to and when to send it, because what I wanted her to do was to get a Saturday edition in the newspaper. And she ended up getting front page on the Saturday paper,
Oh,
which
wow.
was huge, and then booked out for weeks
Yep.
from one newspaper article. And they were really
Yeah.
thinking, how are we going to get through the winter period? And it was just her going, hang on a minute, could this be newsworthy? I was like, yes, that's newsworthy.
Yes,
Yes,
it
do it. And they're booked out. It's such
Yep.
a turnaround for their business. I was so excited.
And it's just learning those little pieces to put into the business. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, talking about AI,
Yeah.
is there a place for AI in media
Yes.
kits and that kind of thing? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there is. Yes. I have a lot of fun with AI. Chat GTP is what I use, and I've been using it pretty much since it came out. But
Yep.
don't just think, beautiful, I'll just go and get Chat GTP to write me a media release, because
Yeah.
what Chat GTP will spit out is good, but it's probably not good enough to get you a media interview.
Yep.
You still need to know the foundations of what needs to be in the media release and how to set it out. And it won't give you all the information. So it's good. So for example, with that story I was just telling you about, the client put it in Chat GTP. Then I said, send it to me. And then I
Yep.
edited that and put I beefed it up basically. And then I sent it back to her. I said, right, now it's good to go. But,
Yep.
to have AI like that and to write your media release in 20 seconds, and then to have the basis and the bones for your media release, is a game changer, because once you know
Yep.
what you need to add to it, you can write one in sort of half an hour. It's a
Yeah,
game
instead of
changer.
taking ages to do it.
Yeah, because it
Mm.
can take you a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Mm.
I love AI, and I think it's got its place. But like you said, like I think you need the human element in there. So it can write like a big, like you said, the bones of it. So you're not sitting there going, "What's next? What do I have to do?" It kind of gives you that structure, but then you can go in and put the human element into there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And it would just yeah, it's amazing. It just makes it so much easier, and it does give you a beautiful foundation.
mm.
But I always, like with my clients, I always say, please just send me the media release before you send it off, just so I can run my eyes over it to make sure that it's hitting all the marks. Because you really only get one shot with one media
Yes.
release to make sure that it's
You
going to
don't want
be
it to
inside.
sound too clinical either.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want it to sound too clinical, and you can kind of spot now when AI is being used, and
Yeah.
the media industry and the journos, that's their bread and butter. So that they know when something's being churned out through AI. So it's about,
Yes.
fine tuning it to make sure that it sounds like you as well, has
Yes,
that
true.
essence of
Yeah,
you.
because it's got to have your own voice to it.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
call her Chatty Cathy, and I have a chat to her. Now, what's Chatty Cathy got to say about this?
I love that. I love that. That's cool.
What other question would I do? What about, because this is what I've found with my clients and with creatives in general, musicians, artists, creative entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, which like I know that you help with a lot as well. What would you say your best technique is that that you've used or you've taught that has helped creatives to feel more comfortable being seen?
Yeah, great question. Because this is something that a lot of people come up with, is the thought of being interviewed or having a microphone or lights and camera in your face. Are just like, I can't do it. I'm going to trip up. What I say, and the most common thing is, what if I make a mistake? Who cares if you
What if
make
I
a
say the wrong
mistake?
thing as well? Yep.
Yeah, who cares? You're human. You're human. But they're only going to ask you questions about what it is that you do. So if you're a creative entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, chances are you know what you do really well inside out. And that's all they're going to ask you about. Of all the media interviews I've done, there's been one where they misquoted me. So I think that's pretty
Yep.
good odds. And I followed up with them after that. Um, yeah, so it's, and also thinking about what is your why. So why is it that you are doing what you're doing? What's the outcomes that you set that you want to achieve? Is it helping people? Is it spreading your music? Is it performing to large audiences? And if you think about reaching people on a broader level, that's going to be really hard for you to do if you're just doing a Facebook Live once a week or posting on Facebook every now and then. You have to get out there and you have to be seen and you have to stand in front of your brand and sprout it is what you're doing. And the more you do it, like anything, the more comfortable you will get. And if you make mistakes, that's okay. We're only human. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect. But really, I'd encourage you to think about why you're doing what you're doing. And particularly if you're trying to create money or income from it, can you do that without more people seeing you? And
Mm,
with media, you never know who is watching or who is listening or who is reading, because they might be, reading an interview about you in a magazine and think, oh my gosh, I need to tell my grandfather about this because he's super passionate about, XYZ music and has lots of money to put on events. You just never know. You never know.
just don't
So
know.
yeah, it's always that the possibility of really thinking about who's out there, who can I reach, and media is a really great
Mm,
tool to do that.
yes, yeah. Have you ever had like a bad interview where they've been quite like rude or anything like that? I think some people are worried about that, like an interviewer
No,
being.
yeah,
Mm,
no, never, 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 never has a journalist ever been rude to me.
yeah,
Yeah, they've all been really lovely and very quite calming to talk to as well.
yeah. Well, they'd be trained in that too to make you feel calm,
Yeah.
to bring it in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So how can people follow you, Nicci?
You
Tell
can.
everyone about your workshop and everything, how they can follow you.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm actually doing a media masterclass Monday, the 26th of August at 6:30 p.m. Melbourne time, and that's really about going into detail about some of these tactics and strategies and what you need to do to get yourself regular media interviews. So I break that down. That's free to register, and I'll be giving somebody who is there live, I'm going to write a free media release for their business valued at $1,200. So if this is something that you're interested in, I really encourage you to tune in. Once you know what you're doing in the media, it's really quite easy um, to get these media interviews. And it's really important then to use those media interviews across your newsletters, your social media channels as leverage as well. So, and if you wanted to follow me on Instagram, it's just Nicci Ashby Coaching, but I spell Nicci Nicci. And
Yep.
my website is evolutive.com.au.
Oh, very nice. Well, I'll be tuning into the workshop on Monday. I think that'll be a
Yeah,
really, really great workshop. That's amazing. And I love your
thanks.
work. And thank you for
Thank
being on
you.
today. I'm
Oh,
just going
thank
to
you
just
for
check
having me.
Instagram. I think we've got some people on here. So I'll say hello to Kat. She said this is so insightful. So that's awesome.
Oh,
If
thanks,
anyone
Beth.
wants to put in any questions, Nicci and I will answer them. If you have any questions about media kits, EPKs, being seen, AI, writing your media release, please pop your questions down below and follow Nicci on all the socials. And I've got Nicci's workshop link up on the screen, but I've also got it in the comment section as well. So Monday, 26th.
Yeah. Yep. Next Monday. So, and I'll be recording that as well. So if you can't tune in live, you can register and I'll send you the link as well.
That's
Yep.
awesome. That's really cool. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for being on here today,
Thanks.
Nicci. It's
Yeah,
been an
thank
absolute
you.
pleasure having you on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Yeah. And your audience. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
No worries. Thanks, Nicci. I'll talk soon.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Bye.